1914. The world has just begun its supposed war to end all wars. It ended nothing but millions of lives. However, amidst the hellish tragedy, there was triumph. On the 24th of December, 1914, perhaps the greatest triumph in modern history was within reach. The Great War began in late July of 1914, with the German-backed Austria-Hungary approving its declaration of war on Serbia. This is largely seen as consequence of Franz Ferdinand and his wife's assassination on a trip to Sarajevo, Bosnia. However, within several days, much of Europe had become embroiled in the conflict. Led by the expectation of a short war, several 100,000 soldiers volunteered for their countries, as is retold by Percy Wilson, a member of the British Armed Forces in the First World War.
Join up! You'll all be back by Christmas.
Unfortunately, a staggering amount of them were dead by December of the same year. The result of the war thus far meant low morale for almost all on the Western Front, with only slightly higher levels among the currently prevailing German forces. Early fighting on the Western Front, which consisted of Belgium, France, and Germany, was purely trench warfare. Troops were also faced with the threat of artillery barrages day and night. If this alone did not rattle a soldier, there was also a lack of food, fresh water, and sanitary materials. Dysentery spread through the trenches as if it were the fire of flamethrowers to be used later in the war. Jean Giono, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature and survivor of the Battle of Verdun, wrote, "We are 9 in a hole. Nothing will get us out of here. But we have eaten. We must relieve ourselves. The first of us to feel the urge climbs out. He's been there for 2 days now, 10 feet away, killed, with his trousers down. We crap on paper and throw it up and out. When we have no more paper, we go in our haversacks. The Battle of Verdun continues. We go in our hands. Dysentery flows between our fingers. We crap blood. We go where we lie. We're devoured by flames of thirst. We drink our own urine. If we remain on this battlefield, it is because they won't let us get away." This was the entirety for all of the war, for all sides. YouTube channel Extra History presents troops on the Western Front becoming so accustomed to each other that they would sometimes yell at each other from across the trenches, patrols would look the other way, and on quieter days cease combat for lunchtime. This basic acknowledgement of the opposition's humanity may have been the greatest factor in the development of the Christmas truce. They were not so different, most of them young men who had joined the war for their country, not necessarily fighting each other out of hatred for another one, but for the love of their homeland, as Ernest Junger, a German shock trooper, said. "Throughout the war, it was always my endeavor to view my opponent without animus, and to form an opinion of him as a man on the basis of the courage he showed. I would always try and seek him out in combat and kill him, and I expected nothing else from him. But I never did entertain mean thoughts of him. When prisoners fell into my hands later on, I felt responsible for their safety, and would always do everything in my power for them." Ernest Junger shows through the eyes of a soldier the humanity of the war. Humanity triumphed in a major way when on December 24, 1914, most of the rain on the Western Front subsided and some regiments of German armed forces began putting lit Tannenbaum on their parapets and singing Christmas carols. In some cases, the British sang back and yelled Christmas greetings to each other. Some of the bravest soldiers even got out of the trenches and met at the wire dividing the sides, while in others, the commanding officers did so and announced a temporary armistice for the next day. In some sectors, though, the truce was impromptu, as is stated in Captain A.D. Chatter's letter to his mother. On Christmas Day, British observed Germans standing outside their trenches. The act was a clear sign of trust and the respect that these men had for each other. Following suit, the British got out of their trenches and buried their dead. In some areas, this was the most that happened, especially considering that the French and Belgians' countries were under control. Yet when considering the fact that they did not shoot each other, even if they were doing something as honorable as burying the dead, it is still one of the greatest triumphs in history. In areas where the truce was more lively, however, gifts were traded, soccer matches were played, autographs signed, photos taken, and history made. Captain A.D. Chatter also wrote, "I think I've seen one of the most extraordinary sights anyone has ever seen." This triumph, sadly, would be the only one to ever share its likeness. When military leaders caught wind of the truce, they took action and court-martialed anyone else who attempted for a ceasefire. And since the date of December 25, 1914, there has never been a ceasefire of this level and magnitude. It is sad to think that these men triumphed the tragedies of war, but now many countries view this as softness and poor training of their military. Regardless of national viewpoints, this event will always be remembered by those who were there as the event that triumphed rivalries and put honor and respect first.